Sage Wonder coming at you from my van down by the river. So, I thought I would do a death toll. This is morbid. A scorecard on this Civil War as I see it. Now, I think there's been a lot more people killed in this Civil War than any of us will ever know. It's been going on, I believe. I see the first victim of the Civil War being Seth Rich, murdered by DNC operatives or deep state operatives to pay him back for leaking those emails from the DNC. Everyone's going to have an opinion, but I believe Seth Rich was murdered and that he was the first person that I'm counting on this list. Now, I think you're probably going to be shocked if you're on the side of the conservative side, because the numbers here are pretty startling. Now, a lot of people are going to explain each individual incidences away and try to say, well, this is not because of the Civil War, or this wasn't political, or this was for this. I don't care what you think when it comes to that. Leave it in the comments if you have to. But bottom line is, I've looked at all of these things in depth, in detail, and I've come to the conclusion that all the deaths and injuries I'm about to list here are a direct result of people on the left, honestly, starting a civil war in our country over Donald Trump, and because they are trying to cover up their crimes in the deep state. And there's a lot more deaths than these, but these are the ones that I personally have kept count of. So are you ready? Let's go down the list. I said first that I think the very first death is Seth Rich, which occurred on July 10th, 2016. This would have been around the time that people started realizing that Trump might actually have a shot at becoming the president. And this is after Bernie Sanders got deep sixed by the DNC. Seth Rich, as many of you know, worked for the DNC, was a Bernie Sanders supporter and a tech expert within the DNC. And that I've seen evidence that clearly proves to me beyond a reasonable doubt that there's no way that the DNC Podesta emails could have been hacked because of the download speed. Just do a search on that yourself, and you'll find that the speed with which these files were removed or transferred out of the DNC computers, there's a log of how long it takes. There's no way it could have been a hack, because it was way too fast to have gone out on any kind of Wi-Fi or wireless or even hardwired connection. That the only way to get the download speed with which those DNC emails left the server from that that computer report, would have been to be downloaded directly to a thumb drive or some external drive. That's the only thing that could transfer that many files that fast. And so it had to be an inside leak job, and everyone believes, and I'm one of those people that believe, that Seth Rich is the one that did it. And WikiLeaks may someday explain, instead of just beating around the bush, may come right out and say Seth Rich provided WikiLeaks with the DNC emails that really are the basis of this supposed fake Russian collusion story, trying to pin this on Trump and the Russians, which had nothing to do with it. That was an inside job by Seth Rich. All right, that's kicked off the whole thing, if you ask me. Flash forward to the big Berkeley riots on April 15th, the tax day riots at Berkeley. And you've got an individual who was hit in the head with a bike lock. That counts as one injured. So far, you got one dead, one injured. The bike lock assailant has been arrested, and I believe the last I heard, he is waiting trial. He has not been tried and sentenced yet that I know of. If you know different, please put in the comments. I tried to research it. I couldn't find any legit information on what the fate of the bike lock attacker was from that day. But a young man with his hands up got his head split open during a riot with a bike lock. Then June 14th, the shooting starts. On June 14th, we've got a left-wing, radicalized, CNN watching, Bernie Sanders supporting, angry liberal who attacks our congressman while they were playing baseball, shooting Congressman Scalise and injuring 5 other people. And then he was killed by the police at the end of that shooting. It was actually stopped. It would have been much worse if it had not been for the Capitol Police. Then a few days later, on June 17th, Oath Keeper and bodyguard to Baked Alaska, one of these guys that is down in the trenches fighting it out with the Antifa. Tony Foreman was stabbed 9 times in a parking lot coming out of a bar. Most people who have researched this believe that Tony Foreman was a hit. It was an Antifa hit. That Antifa didn't do the job, but they paid gangsters to do it. So it was a targeted hit paid for by Antifa to take him out so that they could get to Baked Alaska, who would later on get blinded, I believe, in Boston by some homemade chemical attack from Antifa. And I believe he is still trying to recover his sight. Baked Alaska is. So there's another injury there. Move on to August 12th, then there's Charlottesville. And I won't count the injuries that occurred outside of the one event. We'll just talk about the one event where the white supremacist drives his Challenger or Charger into a crowd of protesters, killing 1 and injuring 19 others. Then flash forward to October 1. Once again, you're going to say there's a million different reasons and who did this, but if you ask me, this is a left-wing hit paid for by the lefties, and it was probably directly connected to Antifa and probably ISIS, but I'm counting this as really the biggest attack of the Civil War. Because of who the victims were, they attacked right-wing Christian conservatives who were at a pro-American concert there in Las Vegas. We all know that story of 59 deaths and 527 injuries. So flash forward just a little more than a month later to November 5th, and we have the Sutherland Springs church shooting where I didn't get the number of injured. I know there were some survivors, but there were confirmed 26 dead in the biggest single church shooting incident in American history. Once again, this was a crazed, out of his mind, God-hating, atheist, left-wing Antifa member who committed that killing. I don't care what you say. I've researched it. He was Antifa. It was an Antifa attack. December 18th, just a couple days ago. I couldn't get an exact date, what day this happened on, but just this last week, around the 18th, we got the train derailment, which happened near DuPont, Washington, where you've got 6 killed, numerous injured. They're still cleaning up that accident that has I-5 shut down. The cause of that remains to be seen, but I'm counting that in these numbers because I believe it was an Antifa terrorist attack against an Amtrak train. Antifa claimed responsibility for it. Of course, that was immediately deleted once they realized people noticed that they had claimed responsibility for it. And but also there was lots of articles from various Antifa sources and various how-tos on train derailment, and we know that this is part of their plan, is to derail trains. There's been a number of mysterious train derailments that's happened since the summer, that's happened just this year, and this was just the first passenger train to derail. And they claim to have even poured concrete already along certain lines of that train area to cause this derailment, which one of the survivors referred to as the sounding like a bomb going off. So that's probably what would happen if you hit a chunk of concrete at 81 miles an hour. It would knock a train right off the tracks. So they're basically pouring quickcrete onto these train tracks to create a concrete obstacle. And I think once the truth is known about this derailment, they'll find that's exactly what happened. And there was, in fact, a camp, a group of Antifa camped near the derailment site so they could have a front row seat in the spectacle they created. So what do these numbers add up to? And trust me, there's going to be lots of reminders in the comments of other deaths that are related to this Civil War that I have not included here that will cause this number to go up. But this is just my preliminary view of what I think the numbers are. So the numbers on the left. Oh, I forgot one. I forgot one incident. on May 26th of this year, the PDX bus stabbing. I'm going to give you guys that one because this guy was yelling, racist KKK type of statements. Although this guy's a documented Bernie Sanders supporter, and he's quoted as saying he wanted to kill Christians, Jews, and Muslims, not just Muslims, and that he wanted to kill anybody that voted for Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton because he was angry about Bernie Sanders. And this guy was not a right-winger, he was one of yours. But I'm going to cede the point and let the left have this, and we'll call him a right-wing attacker in this Civil War. Although I think there's a lot more of that story of the Portland bus stabbing. But in that one, he killed 2 people and wounded 1. So here's what our numbers add up to. The left, they've got 3 dead victims. Charlottesville and the 2 PDX people. So only 3 people are genuine victims on the left of right-wing violence associated with this Civil War as I see it. There's 3 dead victims, but there's also 3 dead gunmen. The Las Vegas shooter killed himself. The Texas church shooter was killed by a civilian, and the baseball Republican shooter of Scalise was killed by Capitol police officers on the scene. So, and they received 1 injury in the PDX bus stabbing. On top of the 2 deaths, there was 1 injury, and then there's the 19 people that were hurt by the car charge, the Charger incident in Charlottesville. So what you end up with is 6 total dead on the left. 3 of them were only legitimate victims. The other 3 were killed while committing a crime, and then 20 injured victims. The numbers on the right are a lot more startling. This really isn't a civil war. This is people on the left murdering people on the right indiscriminately, and the numbers are starting to really stack up. So when you include everything I've talked about in this video, there are 92 dead Republicans from Las Vegas and the church shooting, and there are 534 total injuries from, and that's probably more than that because I didn't include the number of injuries at the Texas church shooting. I couldn't find a number on the survivors, just on the dead. And 0 of the right-wingers who committed these crimes against the left actually have been killed. We've got the PDX stabber is in custody, and the Charlottesville Ram Charger guy is in custody. So on the left, 20 injured, 3 legitimate dead, 3 combatants dead. So we'll just give them all 6 dead, 20 injured. On the right, 92 dead and 534 plus injured. So we're losing because you know what? We're not fighting yet. They're fighting us, and we're trying to show restraint. But I thought I would lay this out. This is a grand total here of 98 people dead from political violence, just that I've listed here, and over 555 people injured in political violence. And I believe that's what all of this has been, one form or another of political violence. Well, let the melee ensue in the comment section. Tell me what I missed. Tell me how I'm full of crap on these killings and that they're all totally unrelated. And I didn't even add in the deaths and the damage from the California fires, which I think were set by Antifa. And I haven't addressed this second round, but they were either being set by Antifa or some kind of laser weapon that was setting these fires in California. I think they're also related to political violence and part of this civil war that has been going on in America now for more than a year. All right, tell me what you think. God save our republic.